On Something to Talk About, FestPac and other events of the year are cause to celebrate, but they also address a social ill that is prevalent in the islands. It's too close for the comfort of a group that's been working to take the alcohol out of the culture. That conversation is ahead on Something to Talk About. Welcome back to Something to Talk About. This week, we, of course, are at King's. We've got a lot of food. We also have a lot of guests sitting at the table. These are ladies, I think, that have been part of a movement for a lot of years, making some headway as well. We're talking about the presence of alcohol and alcoholic beverages in places that we would necessarily not like to see them. And we're coming up on FestPac, which is a very, very huge deal. And it makes a lot of sense that the One Nation movement would have some concerns not only about the integration and the relationship between alcohol and cultural events, but the recognition that a lot of these countries and islanders also are dealing in their own home countries with alcohol abuse and the prevalence of alcohol in their island homes. So we are here with, you think she was retired, but we brought her out of retirement. She's the supervisor for prevention and training for the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. Bobby Beneventi is with us. We also have Rebecca Respicio. Rebecca is a juvenile justice supervisor. It's specialist. I knew it was an S thing over at the Department of Youth Affairs. And we also have Sarah Dimla-Harrell. She's also with prevention and training. Nice to have you guys here. Thank you. And thank you especially, because you could be like in a hammock right now, sipping on lemonade and picking fruit from your trees.
I will do that as soon as this interview
is
done.
We pulled her out. Yeah, you pulled her out. You pulled her out of retirement. I think it's a big deal that the fact that you are here, because the One Nation movement under your tutelage was really, really made well known in Guam. And not to be a Debbie Downer on it, because FestPac is a big deal for Guam.
Right.
But there are also social ills that are sort of underneath all of these cultures. We're celebrating the arts.
Yes.
But and all of these artists and they're coming from places where celebrations are always, most often including, alcoholic beverages. And sometimes it's pretty tough to avoid this incidents and circumstances when it's abused. Yeah, so we can't not recognize that there are social ills among us all.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why I brought up this topic of concern as a community representative is that I've seen personally and through my former work with Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, the numbers of people and families and children who are hurt because of alcohol dependency and alcoholism. And in the development of the One Nation campaign, which is to stop underage drinking of alcohol here in the islands, and to reduce, hopefully also stop adult alcohol abuse, that we are promoting healthier communities and better ways to celebrate. And FestPac should be about that. FestPac is about promoting and perpetuating the cultures throughout the islands, through Micronesia, Polynesia, Melanesia. It really shouldn't be about anything that would support or promote substances that have caused a lot of problems in our islands.
Or highlight it. Right?
Or highlight it, yeah. What's the message, you think? What is the message that is out there that you're trying to get out? What's the message that's out there?
Well, definitely that alcohol is not part of our island culture. First and foremost, too many times we have huge island events, and like you mentioned earlier, alcohol is present at those events, and we've been really strong in the One Nation campaign and helping to bring more community awareness and also helping to empower families here on a local level to make those hard choices. And here on Guam, one of the biggest events where alcohol used to be highly present would be like our Summer Liberation Day festivities.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You know, but for how many years already?
I guess since 2010,
Yeah,
so
we've
sixth year
been
this
making
year.
a presence at the Liberation Day festivities and also providing awareness to families and giving them the opportunity to choose to make their tent or their space at the parade alcohol-free, completely
Right.
alcohol-free.
They make a pledge, right?
That's
Yeah,
right,
they make a
yeah,
pledge.
and they get some stuff for it, and they get recognition for it,
Mm-hmm.
and they get highlighted for that positive choice.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Oh,
Sarah.
I
You
was
were
going
going
to
to
say,
add
I
to
think like for the community in general, I think we need to increase the awareness of the effects of having 2 weeks worth of really aggressive marketing of alcohol beverages, not just among adults, but especially with the youth that are involved in the festivities. I think we're so forgiving that we just say, it's only going to be 2 weeks. Throughout the year, you know, it's not going to be as aggressive. We have to be aware of, like research says, that if you expose a young adult or like a young teen to very aggressive social marketing on alcohol, it's very likely, it increases the likelihood of them getting engaged in underage drinking. And our data shows that. Like our middle schoolers, according to the Youth Risk Behavior Survey in 2013, 1 in every 3 have tried alcohol in middle school. And in high school, 1 in every 4 are current drinkers. So what does that tell us? Like there's got to be some more engagement or communication or conversation going on to say to really see what are the factors that are influencing our young adults and our teenagers to make them think that it's okay to drink alcohol.
Yeah, I know that you have to seize every opportunity where you have an audience of thousands of people that are on one hand they're not influenced, they're just taking in the marketing because they've already been exposed.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, you know, these folks come here to celebrate, and it feels like a really big challenge. But I can see why you would want to take the opportunity because you've got a lot of captive audience, right? Yeah.
I think it's about looking at the bigger picture of
Yeah.
how these 2 weeks will really affect how a middle schooler or a high school student how that influences their decision making, whether or not to, you know, grab that bottle of beer or wine or liquor or whatever it is.
Right, and the amount of promotions that will go on during FestPAC, it really does plant the seeds of acceptance that alcohol is part of this cultural event, and that is so wrong because there is a lot of harm, social ills, traffic accidents, family violence that's connected to alcohol abuse. We've documented that through our epidemiological profile that has been established here in the island. So it is about being really clear about policies that we want to put in place in the islands, in Guam, that would support healthier families, healthier communities, and not promoting a substance that like alcohol that is clearly doing harm.
And just to share a little bit of how this actually all came about, years ago, before One Nation actually was born, there was a very heavy campaign already in our community that was being launched by the alcohol industry. And so we won't give any names, but back in 2008, there were alcohol beverage cans that were featuring the islands of Micronesia, and Guam was on that. And so basically, people who were buying the alcohol would look at the can, get some history behind the island that's featured on the can, and be like, oh wow, cool. And so that really was really alarming. And you know, I have my phone because I'm pulling up the Association of Pacific Island Legislatures, the APIL group, and they actually, our leaders band together. So Guam is part of this, and Palau, and other islands, and they put together a legislative resolution that basically went against that campaign. They did not want the islands, a cease and desist order to do not feature our islands
Because it was
on
an
those alcohol
exploitation
cans.
of their culture and of their people.
And so, you know, our local current speaker now, Speaker Wampat,
yeah.
is her signature is on this, along with another legislative leader in another island, and you know, she's aware that this FestPAC activity has the same campaign that is now being brought about back to our community.
Yeah. So you have you approached her on that, or is
I
there?
have actually.
Okay.
I met her on Saturday, and I said, "I'm not sure if you're aware," and she was floored. She would have been here today, but she did have back-to-back meetings, and she definitely wants to look further into this.
Okay,
and,
we'll probably have a conversation with her. You said before we started the interview that you've made a lot of headway with One Nation, with the one, I call it a movement because it really is a movement. It's really turning people's attitudes around and being able to do that consistently. You don't just take one event and then blitz everybody and then you don't hear from you again. It's a movement that is all year long, including, remember you were here last year when we talked about the inclusion of One Nation psychology into the graduation celebrations for the year. And there's a lot to be said about that because banners are hung from, the front porches of homes when they have graduation parties. And there's a lot to be said about the lack of supervision over at some of these parties where, the cooler in the corner
That's right.
is the... is
and then the adults sending the kids to
go fetch the
beer.
the beer. Yeah, there's that. Tell me about how the movement has gained, some traction since when it was at 2010. You said,
Yes.
2010's establishment. How has it gained traction?
I think most importantly, it has influenced, I want to say, 3 policies. So the first one is the minimum legal drinking age. We were able to activate youth members to be more aware of the importance of increasing the minimum legal drinking age during that time from 18 to 21. They were huge influencers. They created huge impact with the legislators. That's why that policy was passed. And then just recently we have the social host policy that really puts the responsibility in not just establishments but also families who are hosting private parties and are allowing underage drinking. So because of the awareness that One Nation brought up in the community, now we're really taking a community approach and making sure that underage drinking does not happen wherever it is. And then lastly, the responsible beverage service policy, wherein again the ownership of the responsibility from those who provide access. I want to say like bartenders, those who are at the stores, they need to be, according to policy now, they need to be trained in an established responsible beverage service training so that they don't just, it's not just a matter of not, it's not just a matter of carding, it's a matter of like really looking into, is alcohol really the best thing that you should get right now? And as a responsible server, I'm going to make that decision and not sell it to you at this point.
I got to ask you because we're getting ready to wrap things up and go on to the next interview, but over your years, how many years have you been there? 36 years. Do you feel like you made a dent in those 36 years into this mesmerizing culture we have of, alcohol?
I think I was a part of it. I certainly helped to facilitate some really good outcomes with One Nation. And it's done with the team of partners with Department of Youth Affairs and the Non-Communicable Disease Consortium and of course the Peace Office at Guam Behavioral Health. So we've made some big strides. It is a real shame that the same kind of attention and awareness and promotion of One Nation during FestPac isn't happening. Maybe we can turn things around now so that our families and children will have a chance to understand that you can celebrate your culture without the use of alcohol. Alcohol is not part of our Pacific Island culture, and it should not be on every hat or fan or shirt or...
And it's being advertised as, the alcohol cans this time around are being advertised as a commemorative item for FestPac.
Really? Is that what we want to remember about
With our
FestPac?
Guam seal
And I think I saw a pro on one of the cans. Really? Is that what that's about? It's got to change.
It's an important message that it isn't necessarily a part or and it doesn't define our culture at all.
That's right.
I want to thank you guys for joining. We're going to talk next with Brad Hewitt. He's got a movement to try to take alcohol away from the baseball fields. Can it be done? He'll tell us all about it. We'll be right back. Awesome. And welcome back. The next part of our conversation is with Brad Hewitt. Brad is a member and a former vice president of the Guam Amateur Baseball Association, and he's also a part of a project called Partnering for Success. You're the program coordinator, right?
Yes, correct.
Welcome, and thank you for coming with us today at King's.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. What's your role? What is your role in this Partnership for Success? What is it that you're trying to do?
With our organization, Guam Amateur Baseball Association, we're trying to eliminate alcohol usage and sponsorship within sports in general, particularly with baseball. And the idea is to get no alcohol involved, especially with youth sports.
Let me just take a minute to process that. That's kind of a tall order on Guam, isn't it? I mean, the culture is a bit challenging in it. The baseball culture is more, is what I'm saying.
It is. It is. With culture, anything that has been learned within culture can also be unlearned. It takes a process. It takes a period of time, and that's what we're trying to do is begin that process now. One of the things that we're going to do is begin to offer free baseball leagues. That way they don't have to deal with the outside influences of alcohol sponsorship with the companies that are here in Guam.
So you sort of chop off the opportunity for someone to want to bring beer or wine or other alcoholic beverages as a sponsorship of a team. So you chop off that arm of it, and then you've just now got a league that doesn't have any fees to pay. Is that usually what happens?
Yes, that's correct. And another one of our great opportunities is we formed a partnership with the Department of Education, and we have Ukudu baseball fields, which having our programs run at Ukudu, that automatically eliminates the temptation, or even by law, even the availability of alcohol.
What's the conversation that people have about that? It's something that people have been doing for a long time. It's almost like you put the two together, don't you think?
Yes, with our younger populations, they really see it as a great opportunity, especially since they don't have the pressure of driving home with parents who have been drinking, or the pressure of going out and finding sponsorship from somebody that's not involved with the alcohol industry.
But you're talking about the amateur. You're talking about the youth, not necessarily.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
We're focusing on the youth because as they become older, then they'll begin to realize that we can change the culture and the climate.
All right. Yeah, because it would be a little harder to do that if you're talking about the adult leagues.
Yeah, it's already
right?
established.
That's already established.
Yes. Yeah.
So there are no major alcohol
Oh no.
sponsorships?
What I mean is the alcohol in those the adult leagues are already established.
Yeah.
And so to try to pull it out now would be.
I didn't even realize that you could do that in youth sports or youth leagues like that.
Yes. Well, it's the parents who are mostly.
We have fruit, by the way.
Yeah, it's the parents who are mostly at fault by bringing their coolers, setting up tents, and drinking during the games when they're trying to support their athletes, their baseball players.
So this is happening on like at fields in the villages, is what you're saying. This is happening where?
Island-wide.
Island-wide, but it's not happening at school campuses,
Correct.
or is that okay?
Yes, because of the laws, you cannot drink it.
But everywhere else off campus, off
Correct.
a school campus, this is what happens. I never knew
Yes,
that.
that's
I really
correct.
never knew that parents were drinking. That you can bring a cooler full of beer and enjoy a game.
There was
on
nobody to stop you. There was nobody to enforce the laws, if there was even a law to begin with in that particular park.
Yeah.
And along with our Partnership for Success, Guam Amateur Baseball is also streamlining our efforts with Guam Little League to ensure that the policies are across the board the same. That way, a baseball player that plays in our league and that also might transfer over into Little League, the parents won't say, hey, we can do it over here, but we can't do it here. This way, it's across the board.
It's across the board. So all of the games would be held on a nearby school campus, whatever that is.
Currently, the Little League is playing at Harmon, and they don't allow alcohol there either.
There's a brand new baseball field that just opened up in Mauricio as well.
Yes.
That's not a field that would. I mean, is that a field that you could control?
I'm not sure about that field. I believe it's under the mayor's control.
Yeah.
So that would have to be something that would be brought up with the mayor.
Yeah, honestly, I'm stunned because I really did not know what the law was when it came to spectator sports like that, where you have parents. But I see what the problem is. Tell me what the sort of experiences if you've had.
There's been experiences where a parent would drink excessively at a game, drive their children home, and possibly get in accidents. We don't have any documentation of that, but we do have surveys that we conducted previously, as well as focus groups, and that's what the baseball players are reporting back to us, is that yes, my parents drink, yes, we get in a car with them, yes, we do go home after they've been drinking.
Oh, and they pick it up again when they get together. But are there incidents that take place at the actual venue that you've seen that are fueled by alcohol?
Sure, tempers flare. Tempers flare. You hear fans in the stands that who have been drinking. The coaches, I'm sure, hear it sometimes from parents. But yeah, it could create a pretty unfortunate situation.
Yeah. So what's the plan? How do you go about doing this? Moving the venues onto campuses or areas where that you can't bring alcohol within a certain amount of feet of, and is there, are you looking for the possibility of going to, get legislation, for example?
Yes, that's definitely one. Making policy changes, environmental changes. Would be one, with our Partnership for Success, part of our community action plan is not just providing the free leagues for the baseball players to give them something productive to do, but it's also to teach them life skills. We will be teaching, each team will provide what we're calling game changers. And that game changer from each team could either be a parent or it could be a player. They will be provided with a training curriculum that's evidence-based. They will then take that training back into their teams and disseminate that information.
Well, this is what you can do under the baseball association, right? What about the other sports? Because there's a lot of
they eventually will need to also get on board also, because it takes a spark to create a fire. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to create that spark so that the fire catches on with other, especially youth sports, soccer, basketball.
Because there are quite a few sponsorships, aren't there?
Yes, there are.
Beverage companies doing
yes, there are. But since I'm not directly involved with those, I know that they exist. But at this time, we're just concentrating on our baseball.
Yeah.
And for the players who cross over into other sports, which they should do anyway instead of specializing, they can take the information that we're providing them into the other sports.
Yeah, it's going to. I can assume that there might be a little convincing that needs to be done, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, beer, baseball, the whole thing, the whole scene is.
Yes, absolutely. But again, if it's part of culture, anything that has been learned can be unlearned.
Yeah. So are you trying to generate support, or is there conversations that you'll have with the public, or is there any way for the public to have a role?
Yes, over the next 2 or 3 months, we will definitely be getting in touch with the different partners in the community to see if they would like to come on board and sponsor, help sponsor us and provide some sort of funding for sustainment long into the future.
Yeah, because that's kind of if you don't have that sort of revenue being generated by these sponsorships, and you're going to offer the free, no fee leagues like that, how would you be supporting the organization, the association?
Right, that's correct. That's what we would definitely need to have some sort of outside funding.
Brad, good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you're going to try to unlearn some people. That's
that's
tall order,
our goal.
as I
That's
say.
our goal.
Well, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate
it.
it.
And thank you for joining us. We will see you on the radio. Good night.